It's TCR UK, it's the final rounds 14 and 15 here at Snetterton on the 200 circuit. The cars are in the assembly area, so am I. I'm Paul O'Neill. Hello and welcome. Civic Cup is out there at the minute and it's wet, and I mean very wet. Looks like it's starting to not dry up, but there's a lot less water on the track than there was 10 minutes ago. So you can see actually one of the guys from Race Car Consultants is just out there watching, making sure and seeing what the score is with the actual the circuit, because any knowledge is good knowledge. Let's go and have a quick word actually. Anything in particular you're looking for out there? Are you just looking to see how wet it is?
Seeing how wet it is, seeing what we can change. We've changed everything we can change now. Just a matter of tyre pressures, so obviously the tyres don't cook up. So, but yeah, I want it to rain harder really.
Yeah. You got brand new wets on?
Yeah, new wets, all round.
Right, so you're going for it?
Oh yeah, and some in the bag as well.
How's he feeling?
He's all right, he's good. Nice early night last night. But yeah, no, he's all right, he's in a good shape, and you know, we've done the best we can do. And I think it's going to be a hard fight to the end still. I don't think it's going to be easy. We tried a lot of things yesterday. We've put a few new things on the car today. In free practice then, we knew we weren't going to be fast because we were just running a couple of bits in. So now we'll just see how it goes.
There's a chance of winning, there's got to be, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Paul, at the end of the day, golf's good in the wet. And we want it to rain even more. But playing the best man win.
Perfect.
Lovely, thanks.
No worries. Red flag for the Civics. Isaac Smith is the man in the Golf. Isaac Smith is the man who's good in the wet. They look quite confident, don't they? Interesting. Oh, look at that. Lewis Kent, the champ, just getting his... are you going to put them on or off? So he's taking his headphones off there. It's always interesting. Lewis, can I just grab you for 2 seconds? We were saying on the other stream, mate, you never ever want hot air in the car, you never want wet overalls in the car, you want these doors shut as quick as possible. That's just been red flagged. But this rain has gone away, and this circuit seems to have dried up very quickly, mate.
Yeah, we're gone full wet, so I think it'll be wet enough for qualifying to stay on a wet setup. I think it's going to be sort of a judge effect of who's the last one on track to get that good time in. But yeah, we're going to have to see how it plays out. I'm hoping for rain. The only wet race we had this year I've won, so it's in my favour to have wet racing. I like wet. I like the wet. It's good fun. It shows a real driver rather than a real car. But yeah, it's good fun, and we'll just have to see how today gets on.
Are you already peeling that number one off the side, or are you hoping to keep it on there, mate?
Definitely not. That's coming home with me again.
Top man, I love it. Last question. You'll have maps on this car for wet settings and dry settings. Just explain to people watching, what do those maps do?
So yeah, we have a different map for each condition. So you have a dry map, a damp map, a wet map, safety car, and then a limp mode. So really, it says it in the name. Dry map gives you full power the whole time, so no traction control, nothing like that in these anyway. But dry map will give you acceleration straight away. Damp map will slow the acceleration down, and then wet map again will slow it down even more. So when you go flat on the throttle, it doesn't just give you the whole throttle the whole time, it will slowly give you the throttle in. Just stops you spinning the wheels up coming out the corners, really gives you that extra traction and drive down the straights. Perfect.
Lot to do for the driver then, not just to push the pedals?
No, not at all. Our whole way through school, everyone went, oh, racing's easy, you push pedals and turn a steering wheel. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. It's a lot of work. I work as an instructor, and there's a lot of people jump in the car after 15 minutes, jump out, oh, I'm really worn out. It's like, yeah, it's a physical game. It's not. It's a very mental and physical game. So, yeah, it's going to be tough today, but hopefully a couple of other people trip up. I have a bit of fortune, and we steal that third one.
Top man. Last question, is Adam Shepherd out, do you know?
Have no idea. He had a bit of a nasty one this morning. Thankfully Adam's all right, which is always the main thing. You like to see the drivers get out and be fine. But yeah, the front of his car didn't look too good. Running high Hondas, we know how much work they are to put them back together. When it drove past, we had a little look, and we're not sure if he's done a chassis rail or not. So yeah, that could already be working in my favour, but yeah, unfortunately for Adam, we're not too sure where he is at the moment. We don't know if he's going to be out or not.
Top man. All right, mate, I'll let you close your door, get your head in gear. Interesting stuff that was. Are you staying in, fella? You want me to just shut that? Wicked. let you guys crack on. Yeah, Adam Shepherd this morning in free practice went straight on at turn 1 and damaged the car apparently quite badly, so I haven't seen him in the assembly area yet. I'd be very surprised to see him. He had a real good chance of trying to steal this championship off Smiley, who's leading it with Isaac Smith, so interesting stuff. But like you say, Lewis just saying, main thing is he's okay, but the car doesn't sound great. The man that's leading the championship jointly with 315 points, I believe, is Chris Smiley. Chris is fully involved in the car. He's ready to rock and roll. I think he's just trying to set his brake pressures and everything like that. If you have a look in the car, actually, look on the oh, what a lad. Nice one. I didn't think you were going to open the door for us, mate. I didn't want to pester you.
There's always a door open for you, Paul.
There's always a door open for you. Mate, pound seats for you. One win between you and Isaac Smith leading the championship. How come you've not won more?
Listen, the winning bit's great and all, but you know we've put ourselves in this position. You know we've been consistent throughout the year. You know we've worked hard. We've had good weekends, we've had bad weekends, but ultimately we've put ourselves in a position that, you know, we've put ourselves in the pound seat for the championship. So it's easy to talk about good weekends, bad weekends, winning races. This is what it comes down to today.
Top man, I'm being told to wind it up because you guys are getting ready. So you crack on, Chris. All the very best, especially with everybody else. I can see everyone's flat out trying to get in the cars. I think we're going to have a little ad break and then we're going to head over to comms with Andy McEwen and myself a bit later on. Cool.
Keep going.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Keep going. Right, I can do that. Look, there's Dave Newsham, absolute legend. Touring car winner in his own right. His son Callum doing really well, actually. Actually, quick one. I do like speaking with Dave about Callum. Getting better and better. This is kind of not home for you, but not far.
What, from Inverness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know why I think that?
I have no idea.
I know you're from Inverness. Well, you don't sound Scottish for one.
Yeah, I'm from Lancashire originally.
That's near me.
Yeah, I know.
So I always thought that this was your home circuit because you went so well round here.
I used to love this place.
I remember battling with you years ago.
I remember you punting me way past the corner.
Do you know what the best part about that is? So we ran a little race in a touring car series years ago, and I hit you and I got past you. You defended late. I braked late. Anyway, Dave, listen, I've got the microphone, so you can't have a say in this. Best thing about it was I knew I was in the wrong. The best thing about it was the cameras didn't pick it up.
Not at all.
No one's seen it.
No, it looked like I'd outbrake myself, which
which you did. Exactly that, and he didn't really. Proper top man is Dave, and his son's really good as well. Would you mind? I want a little word, actually. Thank you very much. Oh, mate, Donington Park. That win was amazing. And then, is it still ongoing protest that it was taken away?
Yeah, it's still ongoing at the minute. To be honest, I don't know if anything's going to come of it. But yeah, I was really upset about that. I mean, it was such a minor overboost, but what can you do? Rules are rules. There was absolutely no advantage for that overboost that we had. So yeah, it seems a little bit unfair. We did sort of plead to the clerk of the course, like we didn't have any performance advantage. But obviously rules are rules and we have to stick by that. But I enjoyed it. It was a win on the road and I enjoyed watching it back and listening to you.
It was one of the best races, mate, I've ever seen. I was driving home when I found out that it had been taken away, and I was proper devastated for you, mate, because like I said to you on the day, I know what it's like to win at a top level, and it's just a shame, innit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did set out to try and score a podium this year, whichever way I could, but whether it was reverse grid or an outright podium, I didn't expect to stand on the top step, and when it happened, it didn't even sink in. Even when I got out of the car, it was like I just felt like I'd come back from like a test session, and I was really chilled. I couldn't sort of get in my head. But yeah, I just feel more sad about it now because yeah, it was something that I really wanted. I really wanted a win. I really wanted a podium in TCR with obviously the amount of talent that there is this year. And it got taken away, and it was harsh.
I'm sure it'll come for you, mate. You'll be absolutely sound. I think you guys are going to be going now because one of the cars has just come back. Good luck, Andy Wilmot. And this time we are going to an ad break, and then we are going to see some TCR UK qualifying. Over to you guys.
For voice and data solutions at speeds that are simply out of this world, choose Maximum Networks.
Well, welcome along everyone to the Snetterton 200 circuit for the final event of the season in the 2022 TCR UK Championship. We've got a wet circuit, it's been catching people out all morning long, and we're about to go into what could be the most important 30-minute qualifying session of the season, because this is the session that will decide the grid for the penultimate round of the championship, taking place just after lunchtime today. This is a very fiercely competitive championship finale with 7 drivers mathematically in contention for the title, and in weather like this I really wouldn't count any of them out. It's going to be a very, very intense day of racing, not just for those going for a championship but also for those just looking to end their season on a high. It's Andy McEwen here in the commentary box. I'll be joined shortly by a fairly soggy Paul O'Neill, I'd have thought, who spent the last 40 minutes or so down in the assembly area talking to the drivers, and he will be making his way up towards the commentary box in the near future, where we will see, in fact we are seeing now, a green flag and cars heading out onto the circuit. Then this 3.2 kilometre, 2 mile Snetterton 200 circuit, 8 turns, most of them to the right, but a couple of tricky little left-handers in there as well. Very flat circuit, which is helping us today because there's not too much in the way of standing water around, and the rain has now stopped. As you saw from that weather forecast, there's more rain anticipated at around about 2 o'clock, so just at about the time that the first race of the weekend is likely to be starting, we could see another sprinkling of rain, but we're hoping the track will start to dry out by that point. So cars heading out then, all of them on Goodyear wet tyres, you would imagine, for what is still very much a wet session. If you've not been keeping up with TCR UK social media throughout the day, then you may have missed what happened in the free practice session earlier on today. The cars were given a 15-minute session, and within the first 2.5 minutes of that, we had our first major championship drama with Adam Shepherd, third in the championship, in the barriers at Rich's corner. So Adam Shepherd's car very badly damaged, and the area motorsport team were working flat out to try and get it fixed for the race, and indeed we already have drama in this qualifying session because Jack Constable is now pulling off, and the man who is 7th in the championship, the last of those magnificent 7 who could be champion today, he is pulling his car behind the barriers on the exit of Riches. So Jack Constable's Power Max Racing Cupra in strife, that is mechanical though rather than an off it would seem. But yes, so Adam Shepherd in trouble with a very badly damaged car that I don't think has made it out into the qualifying session. That's not a huge surprise, and Jack Constable in trouble as well. The other bit of news of championship significance is that Alex Lee, 6th in the championship, will have to start race 1 from the back of the grid. That's because he had an engine change yesterday, and an engine change means that he has to start the next race from the back, but he's still going to go out there and qualify because there are points available in qualifying. The top 6 at the end of this session will score championship points, 6 points for pole, 5 for second, and 4, 3, 2 and 1 in 6th position. So the top 6 will score points. Darrell Wilson's gone grass tracking up at Coppice Corner. He's digging his way back out onto the circuit if he can find the circuit, and he will rejoin now just behind George Jackson, who's making his TCR UK debut, and the track conditions continuing to catch people out. But yes, Alex Lee will go out in this session to try and score some points, but we'll be starting from the back already. Well, Paul O'Neill has made his way up into the commentary box. You're actually looking a bit drier than I expected. That bright umbrella hat you were wearing was doing its job, Paul.
What an absolute beauty of a hat that was, eh? That was amazing. Yeah, the marshals down there, the boys and girls, doing a cracking job. Getting the show on the road and just borrowing me that umbrella as well. So that was straight on social media via Phil King, which is lovely. But yeah, this looks pretty special, doesn't it? It's a lot drier now on the circuit than it was before. A lot of the runners with brand new wet tyres on to cut through the moisture. But like Lewis Kent said to me, I think this is going to be done either really late mid-session or one of the last laps.
Well, it doesn't look like it's going to rain again in the next half an hour, does it? So, yeah, the track should keep on improving. They're limited, though, on the number of wet tyres they've got available to them. So, is there a lot of sense in going out there and pounding around in the first part of the session when you know the times are going to come later on?
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? I mean, you can see how soft the cars are, bouncing around into that first corner, Riches. But, yeah, 6 tyres, 6 wets across the weekend. So they've got to qualify on them, and they've got a race in both races, which will both be wet, there's no doubt. And if they do have a race that dries up and they start knackering those wets, you know, what was the point? So really, if you were thinking about it, you'd pick the right time to try and do your lap in qualifying and then park it.
Well, yes, that's the sensible thing. But of course, if everyone had that idea, the track wouldn't dry because no one would be out on track clearing the water. So they do have to go out there, I suppose, try and improve track conditions. Out onto the circuit, Paul, goes Adam Shepherd. That is, I've seen some miracles in motorsport. That's up there, Paul.
Wow, that is impressive. I'd written him off like his car. Look, it's not
good
straight.
as new.
It's not straight. You could just see that front split has been thrown on. But if anybody can do something amazing, it doesn't look like it's crabbing. Well, it's moving around a lot, but the front of the car, you can tell where the mountains are for the actual bumpers. That's where it doesn't look straight, and he will just have to pedal this around. If it was dry, he'd be out of the question. That car looks very nervous in a straight line, but this could be just a little test session. He's on the brakes, trying to just make sure that brakes are working in a straight line. We could see some kind of interesting miracle happening here, I'm telling you.
I tell you what, 3rd in the championship, we all sort of thought that he might be the favourite for it. We knew he had some really good pace expected around here in the wet or the dry. And that car, which was in the barriers, what, an hour ago, and looked an absolute mess. I was wondering whether we'd see it at all today, and he's got it out on circuit in this qualifying session. He was telling me, Paul, that it was a braking issue. They'd swapped the brake pads over to a set that they'd run previously in testing, and they'd had problems in testing with them locking when they were cold. They were fine when they got some heat into them, but that's why he went off on the first lap, snatched the brakes into turn 1, so I'd imagine they've gone back to the other set of pads now to try and avoid that problem happening again.
But the one thing he will be, Andy, is he'll be quite nervous.
Oh, yeah.
One, because... Oh, that's Alex Lay, straight off at Riches. The one thing he will be, and that is nervous. One, not to do the same thing again, but 2, you've got to remember, he's coming up to the corner he went off on, but, you know, he doesn't know whether this car is going to do it. When you rush things, I'm not saying the guys have put a bad car together, but when you rush things, sometimes there's a bit of an oversight. That car doesn't look straight to me. It really doesn't look straight. When it comes straight at you, it looks like it's got a bit of what we call crabbing, which is looking like it's you know, going sideways down the straight. But you can see from the front splitter, things aren't attached properly. The ride height on the front of that car looks so high. and there's a minimum ride height on these cars, and that looks like it's well over, like as in it's too legal. That car does not. It doesn't look right. But if he qualifies that 4th from the back, I'll be well impressed.
Well, that's the thing, and you'd rather start 12th than 17th because you're a little bit closer to the pointy end of the grid. You're a bit less likely to get caught up with some first lap shenanigans, and anything is possible today. It's what we've been saying all day long, with the weather as it is, the championship as close as it is. Just finishing the races could be enough to give you a championship, and Adam Shepherd will know that the further up the order he can start, the better his chances are of doing just that. As far as lap times are concerned, then we are 7 minutes into the session. Chris Smiley, joint championship leader, is fastest right now. The number 22 car arriving here at Snetterton on exactly the same amount of points as Isaac Smith once the drop scores are calculated. Well, it's Smiley at the moment on provisional pole, a 25.0, 7 tenths quicker than Brad Hutchison in the Audi. Brad looked quick this weekend in the wet or the dry, with Isaac Smith third, and Adam Shepherd fourth. Paul.
Wow. Well, that's a pretty impressive first lap, wasn't it? Impressive. I've got to say, that car just looks like it's wandering all over the place, but it is windy. There is a tailwind up to turn 1, and then a crosswind as they come out of there, but he does look like he's getting the traction down and the car looks steady, but there's a lot gets masked when it's wet, and this is the weather for a car that isn't straight, because it doesn't matter amazingly with the margins. But the other thing I will say is, would it not be better to miss qualifying and fix the car properly for the 2 races? But at the same time, he needs to see if it works.
Yeah.
And if they're happy with it, they wouldn't send it out if they weren't happy with it.
Exactly. Rob Baker would not send that car out if he thought it was a danger, more to the point, and he clearly doesn't feel that's the case. And Adam Shepherd is pedalling it reasonably well. Now, these times are going to keep on improving. They are continuing to improve. Callum Newsham just jumped ahead of Adam into 4th position. But if he can get a point out of this qualifying session, it was worth it. He needs every point that he can get. Remember, if he qualifies in the top 6, then he will get some points on his tally. Chris Smiley there was a bit wayward through the hair of Wilson, but seemed to get away with it. Brad Hutchison pushing on. That Audi has looked good this weekend, certainly in the dry yesterday in testing, but I think it's pretty handy in the wet as well. Could be a dark horse this weekend.
I'd say he's going to have a good weekend. He's won around here with Mini Challenge. Yeah. So, the team, his dad and his family, they know exactly what the sketch is with Snetterton, how to make a good car work around Snetterton, and that's what the Audi is. Shepherd off, and I think that's the same corner that he went off on. He's obviously got some kind of brake issue, hasn't he, fundamentally in that car. Chris Smiley, I did notice, had ran wide as well at turn 1 or 2. I think it was turn 2, and he come back on the He's got it all back together. The third of the cars in that line, that Golfer coming through his shot now, that is Jonathan Beeson, and Jonathan is teammates with George Healer, who had that fantastic result like you alluded to at the last round at Donington in the same car. So they kind of share a car in Brit car, an Audi Gen 2, and this car here, they're just giving it to each other as they go through TCR. A lot of people talking about TCR at the minute as well. It's going to be a massive win.
I think a few things are going to change for next year. More new cars on the way, new drivers on the way. We were supposed to be seeing Lewis Brown, Mini Challenge front runner, racing with us this weekend. He's not able to race because he had a gearbox problem in testing yesterday, but he's stuck around. He wants to see TCR UK in action. It is really starting now to attract all the right kind of attention, and you can see why, Paul, because we've been treated to a stellar season. By compare it to any series you want out there, it's been our best season for sure. Every race has been good. We've had so many different people up there fighting for race wins. 9 different winners across the 13 races this season. It doesn't get much better than that. And then a 7-way shootout for the championship as well.
Crazy, isn't it? Like you say, we come into this and we did our little social preview. We were talking about the Magnificent 7. There is one of the Magnificent 7, 117, and I'm just impressed that he's out there, to be honest. But he still seems to be pedaling the car well, but it just looks like it's tramline, and it doesn't look happy, let's say that. But the Hyundai runners weren't looking forward to the rain.
No, a lot of them said they were struggling with understeer and excessive wheel spin in the wet yesterday. Now, I expect a bit of wheel spin in the wet, of course, but other cars like the Audi, the Honda, the Golf of Isaac Smith, they seemed to have a bit more low-down grunt, and they were just getting off in tight corners a little bit more cleanly. As it stands then, we are 11 minutes into the qualifying session. Chris Smiley on provisional pole position, and that would give him 6 championship points. So as it stands, Chris Smiley would be the championship leader now, and he would pull out that margin over Isaac Smith, but only to 2 points because Isaac's got the Golf onto the second row as well. Adam Shepherd would still sit third because neither he or Bruce Winfield or Lewis Kent are yet into the points. Lewis Kent is all the way down in 10th position right now and doesn't look particularly rapid yet in the Veloster, which is just heading back out onto the circuit as we speak, so he may get it back to start improving. So Chris Smiley doing a good job, but these conditions, Paul, I think really play into the hands of Isaac Smith. In the dry, I'm not sure he has third place pace.
Yeah, no, definitely. Smith is sitting pretty. That's where you always expect him to be, either in the top 3 or really knocking around the top 3. And it's just shown all year, without a race win, you can get the job done. It's impressive. This wouldn't have happened a couple of years ago in TCR UK. It just shows you how difficult it is. Chris Smiley on 1 win. When we pitched up for the season opener, I honestly thought, why are you lot bothering when Chris has turned up?
Yes.
With someone from Honda had turned up. The restart guys have done a great job of the car, and I just laughed and I was like, you guys are stuffed. He's going to win everything. And even Chris has said himself, it's a difficult, hard, good championship.
I remember having those exact conversations with almost everybody at Alton Park, and he was most people's tip for the championship this year. But Chris Smiley, having won that first race from pole position at Alton, led every lap of it as well. It looked like he was living up to that, but he has had some difficulties as the season went on. Had a mechanical issue at Brands Hatch, which caused one of 2 retirements for him. The other retirement coming in our most recent race, the second race at Donington Park, when he was actually tangled up with multiple of the drivers, one of them being Adam Shepherd at the first corner, and broke his rear suspension, so that took Smiley out of that race too. Had it not been for that, he would probably have been a little bit further away, but as it is, he is neck and neck with Isaac Smith. There, the Bondit Blue Audi is in the pit lane. Brad Hutchison's second fastest right now. Halfway through the session, Paul, drivers coming in and doing what? Not necessarily changing tyres, but perhaps swapping them around.
Yeah, well, that's a new front left going on. That's brand spanking. So, yeah, his dad there opening the door, Martin. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if Brad's come in then, he's just saying, I've got wheel spin, I've got understeer, the car, the front axle won't do what I want it to. So, interesting that they've thrown another set of fronts on. Maybe he thinks there's a pole position in that Audi, and the only way to do it is to stick some fronts on. Mickey Butler just left the comms box, head of Goodyear Motorsport for the UK. Just spoke to him. I said, is anyone going to be on machined wets or scrubbed wets? Meaning you can actually take the top layer off the wets, depending on what condition it is, and it makes them more of an intermediate. And he said, you can tell by how much water's being thrown up that the right tyre is the full wet, the brand new wet, and that's been confirmed by Brad Hutchison in the Audi.
Yes, indeed. Chris Smiley there, the reason for my sharp intake of breath was that he ran very wide over the exit curve at Riches, got onto the grass slightly. He is still on provisional pole, but now second fastest is Alex Lee. Now, as I said earlier on, no matter where he qualifies, Bruce Winfield's just been grass tracking at the first corner, but gets his new Hyundai i30M back onto the road. Again, wherever Alex Lee qualifies, he won't be starting there. He will be starting from the back, but he can still score points, I believe, and so second place right now would give him 5 championship points. He is the best part of a second slower than Chris Smiley. We are seeing more and more improvements, Paul.
Brand new wets going on Jonathan Beeson's car, Pep from Pulshed Racing on the gun there, just sticking that front left on. Then maybe that's 2 front lefts. I know they may have put a front axle on, but it wouldn't be a bad shout putting just 1 front tyre on actually on the left, because it's all right hand corners. So yeah, that's where you get it. You get the most traction and the most turn in from. We'll be putting it on that one side that does the most work. So very interesting, because 6 tyres across the weekend, and I think that's what's the good thing for me, is that it keeps the costs down as well, because you can, if you throw tyres at wet tyres especially at championships, it becomes a bit of a, who's got the most money.
indeed, which is not what TCR is about. For sure, we want this to be as level a playing field as possible, and it certainly has been this season. So, halfway through the session now, then number 22, Chris Smiley, is fastest with a 124.653, so we're about 9 seconds away from a dry lap time now. They were running in the 15s yesterday in testing, supposedly. Second fastest, number 76, Alex Lee. Third, number 17, Brad Hutchison. Fourth, number 123, Isaac Smith. And fifth, but in the pit lane at the moment, is number 37, Bruce Winfield, after that minor off at Rich's corner. We're getting a purple first sector for Chris Smiley here, though, Paul. He's pushing on and looks as though he might be about to improve again.
Yep, he's going to be coming through to complete that sector 2, and he's quite fast in that. Well, he's purple. He's the fastest of everyone, but it's quite a bit quicker, so I think he's going to stick a second on everybody. But let's talk about the miracle man, and that is Adam Shepherd in that 117. Absolutely amazing stuff that they got that car out. You can look, it's only got one headlight. It's like a pirate coming down the first. Oh, that car! It always does look nervous on the brakes, that car, to be fair. The rear axle always does seem to move around. Sometimes when cars run so much rear camber, there isn't a lot of contact patch on the rear tyres. So when they dive into the floor on the brakes, at the front axle just dives into the floor, the rears kind of come away even more from the tarmac, and yeah, there's not a lot of contact patch there, and that's what makes them move around.
Absolutely. We had a slight improvement there for Chris Smiley. He's now beyond the second clear of Alex Lee, and about 1.1 seconds clear of Brad Hutchison behind him. 2 purple sectors it was for Chris on that lap. Back into the session goes Bruce Winfield, so we've got most of the cars out on circuit. Just Andy Wilmot and Jordan Jackson not circulating there in the pit lane, and of course Jack Constable, whose car stopped coming out of Rich's corner in the very early sessions, and that may well now be his championship hope's pretty much gone.
If I was Chris Smiley, I might be getting this wrong, but I would be sticking that in the pit lane now.
Yes.
I'm getting told what's going on, where's the greens, who's where's my championship rivals. Because at the minute, Alex Lee, who's kind of an outside chance, isn't he? He's on the front row, but he really doesn't have to worry about anyone else. I can't see Winfield. Looks like he's just struggling a bit, doesn't he, with that power.
Yeah, they've had next to no wet running, really, only yesterday morning, and it wasn't wet for very long yesterday. So, yeah, Bruce Winfield, I mean, he's not doing badly, he's 5th fastest, but, yeah, would have liked to have been up there on the front couple of rows. Smiley, maybe listening to you, Paul, is heading for the pit lane. 12 minutes to go. So, yeah, he can sit in the pit lane, he can cool himself down a bit, but he can be ready to go out on circuit the moment that they say his pole is under pressure. Adam Shepherd has just gone off again at the Wilson hairpin, and he is clearly struggling with the way that car is handling. He has dropped down only to 8th, actually. So, again, to your point about whether it was worth going out there, 8th place is better than 17th. So they've then got, you know, an hour or so to get the car even better for the race later on. But I think we're now getting to the point, maybe, Paul, where if he doesn't think he's going to improve again, might be sensible to get the car back into paddock and start working on it.
Yeah, because if the car... Oh, Matthew Wilson off as well. At
Wilson.
At Wilson, yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, if you've got a car that isn't straight and it's not driving straight in a straight line, it will scrub even harder the wet tyres. Then you've got a situation of, I've got crippled wet tyres for both races, so, you know, I think you've got to limit the running, just, you know when you're beaten. It's got a lot of understeer, that car through there, a lot of understeer, no front grip on turning. That's why he probably went off at turn 2 at Wilson's before. So, yeah, the front axle really struggling there, and as good as Shepherd is, I think he needs to actually call that time, and then he can get the car corner weighted up properly, because you can, if a car's not straight, geometrically, if that's a word.
It's a big word.
No. If it's not straight, you can then do other things and make the car straight by bending other things, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, just, it's a...
The Paul O'Neill School of Engineering, isn't it?
I've bent enough cars, mate, to know that I've had to drive cars that just don't add up on the flat patch, but they're absolutely stunning when you drive.
You can make anything work, and the boys and girls at Area, I'm sure, can get that car working. Right, what's Isaac Smith got for us? He's coming through to complete a lap that did not start with an improved first sector, and it's not going to end with an improved second sector either, but he now goes on to a flying lap in some clean-ish air, and he will be looking to try and improve upon 4th place. He's scoring 3 championship points as it stands. He would be 3 points therefore behind Chris Smiley going into that first race later on. Alex Lee there staying well out of his way as they come out of the first corner at Riches, and Isaac Smith, the race car consultants prepared VW Golf that was in the wars a bit last time out at Donington Park, fires out onto that Bentley straight, taking the best line he can. I say that, understeers a little bit too wide there on the exit.
Yeah, got on the throttle, and that will hurt him all the way down the straight, but he may have made such a gain on the way in that it might not upset him on the way out. But these cars running very soft, they're on such a wet setup. The softness of the front of these cars, they're bouncing around. You'll see as he comes out of here. The lean, look at the lean across the front axle.
That's less lean, though, than I'm seeing on the Hyundais, and I think a lower ride height at the front than I'm seeing on the Hyundais. So it's perhaps the case that he actually felt they could be a bit more aggressive on the setup with the Golf, because it is naturally very good in the wet, and he is a good driver in the wet as well. He's had success before in wet conditions and seems to have a natural affinity to them. He comes through the corner now, having again not quite improved in sector 1. 14.8 is over a second, in fact, off the pace that he really needed in the first sector, but he will continue to the line and register the lap. Not seeing as many improvements at this stage, though, as I expected, Paul. Have we maybe got to the point now where the track conditions are getting a bit too greasy and the wet tyres are not working as well now, ironically, as they were 10 minutes ago?
Well, maybe, yeah, there might be a shift in Delta. I'm just looking at Jonathan Beeson, who's not gone any quicker on that lap, but his Golf, the 78 Golf, is up there into the top 10, which I think is an amazing effort for someone who's they only started racing last year. Yeah, so them tyres are working differently. There'll be a lot of pressure being taken out that tyre now, and they won't want the cameraman or camera lady showing off that gauge for the pressures. Adam Shepherd looking at the times on the same network we look at, which is TSL. So that's Mickey Butler, asking him what's going on with the car. He's probably seen from the screens we've got in here, Mickey Butler, who had his head in the door there, does actually know what he's on about engineering-wise, so he's probably seen the car and listened to us wax lyrical about how straight it doesn't look.
Indeed, although it still looks a lot better than it did the last time I saw it, so I'm impressed they even got it out there, to be perfectly honest. Here comes one of our new drivers towards us, George Jackson, currently bringing up the rear in the times, but only half a second behind Mark Havens, those two both making their debuts in the championship. Neither of them will score championship points. That's perhaps of some significance when we get into the races later on. If they do find themselves in amongst some of the front runners in the championship, you can discount those two because they are guest drivers. They're not full season entrants, and so they don't score any championship points. This man does, though. Bruce Winfield coming up through the bomb hole, and he, Paul, has just done a personal best first sector. So has Callum Newsham, actually. So there is still some time to be had out there.
Looks like it, doesn't it? And Alex Lee has actually gone purple in the second sector. He's took a few tenths out there. They're all going a bit quicker. Chris Smiley is in the pits still. He'll be very nervous about this, but I think he's got enough of a buffer. But it looks like you can only go quick if you throw a tyre at it.
Well, absolutely, and we are getting to that point now where the track is the least wet that it's been. So in theory, the time should be there as long as the wet tyres are still working well. But yeah, you're right, Chris Smiley maybe starting to sweat a little bit now. Winfield, in the end, didn't improve his time, stays sixth, but Callum Newsham did and moved ahead of him. That's significant, takes a point away from Winfield. Callum Newsham, of course, not in championship contention and just out to try and get some good results at the end of what's been a bit of a frustrating, at times, debut season in the championship for Callum Newsham, the number 16 Cupra, jumping into the top 5, and that would be one of the better qualifying efforts we've seen from him in the recent past. That means that Winfield's down to 6th with Brad Kent 7th and Lewis Kent down in 8th. I think lack of wet running in that Veloster perhaps is just starting to hurt Lewis.
Yeah, but he was quite buoyant about it being wet. When I was speaking to him down in the assembly area, Adam Shepherd back out, just going through your shot. So, yeah, so I don't know why maybe he's off the pace quite a lot there. That's very interesting. Isaac Smith coming through in the 1-2-3 to start a lap, and they're starting to... They're pointing purple velocity max sectors, so top speeds down the back straight, 134 miles an hour for Brad Hutchison, so that usually tells you that they've got a good exit.
Brad Kent, 4th fastest. Again, not a championship contender, but the younger brother of one of them, Lewis Kent, and he just got his i30N into 4th. Knocks Winfield out of the points, Paul. So Winfield now down into 7th position. That starts to change things again, but that was a good lap there, a 25.4 within a second of pole now.
Yeah, That's all right. They're coming down now, aren't they? I still think it's too far away. It doesn't look like it's raining at all, to be honest. But when you start to get from full wet to dry, you have this horrible greasy stage. And if you're on the wrong type of wet tyre, there's only one type of wet tyre, but if you're on a tyre that's too good for the conditions, you will then start to get tread shuffle, and the actual tread of the tyre will move around. So you want to be on as slick wet as you can, if you know what I mean. You want to be on a steady inter that you've made by driving too fast and scrubbing the tyre to death.
Adam Shepherd there was wriggling his way through the last couple of corners. That final corner, Paul, the final two corners, through Corham into Murray's, that to me seems like one of the hardest sequences. Oops, Russell Joyce is off. That's Richards again, I think. And yes, he's off into the farmer's field almost. He's found the ditch, drags himself back over it. The Joyce design livery, Power Max Racing Run Cupra, will dig itself back out onto the circuit. He lost a bit of trim there, though. A bit of rear bodywork, I think, came off the Cupra. And there goes Scott Summerton doing exactly the same thing behind him. So you can tell they're starting to push a bit more now, Paul.
Yeah, it's getting greasy up there, isn't it? And I'm looking at the comms box, and there is a yellow flag being waved, which is great to see, actually, because I was a bit concerned that there was... Oh, no! Alex Lee in the barrier. What's going on there?
I thought I saw that. Just as he went out of our sight, out of the window, I caught a Hyundai going wide. I wasn't sure if it was him or whether it was Winfield. Alex Lee in the barriers then. Now, the other two that we mentioned, Sumpton and Joyce, they avoided the barriers, but Alex has hit the wall, and that's exactly the same spot that Shepherd hit it earlier on. And yeah, you're right, Paul, 3 minutes to go. The red flag comes out. That is likely the end of qualifying. Alex had just done a personal best, and that's so often the case, isn't he? He sets a personal best, closing in on pole position, and the next corner is in the barriers.
Yeah, that's a real nightmare. He was just getting quicker and quicker, wasn't he? Red flags waved, medical van just going out to the scene, and yeah, hopefully Alex is okay. I think, yeah, I don't know, for the amount of cars that went off there, I mean, it's the same place that Adam Shepherd had his accident. Exactly the same. Excuse me, exactly the same place. So I don't know what maybe has been put down. It only needs a fine mist of bit of fuel, or, you know, bit of coolant. You don't know. I'm not blaming anybody, but you never know. When the cars have had an accident or they've been off circuit already, they can rip hoses off and all sorts. So we'll soon see.
Interesting. Yeah, certainly there was a flurry of activity there, suddenly, wasn't there? But Alex Lee, you're right, I think it's exactly the same bit of tyre wall that Adam Shepherd hit before, although significantly less damage this time. For those who are watching trackside, I know you're hearing us rattling on about TCR as well today. Well, you might not be able to see that car, but it is not as bad as the Shepherd car was. And we are hearing now, yes, the car's being sent to Parc Ferme, which means Paul O'Neill's being sent to Parc Ferme as well, to go and have a chat with our pole man, Chris Smiley, and that's the ideal start to the weekend. Chris Smiley, by 0.7 of a second, is on pole position. He's looked quick, he's looked confident all weekend long, and he will take the maximum 6 championship points. So Chris Smiley will now take sole ownership of the championship lead. As far as the other points are concerned, well, Alex Lee should take 5, despite the fact he's in the barriers and will start from the back of the grid anyway. 4 points will go the way of Brad Hutchison, who is not a title contender. 3 to Bradley Kent, ditto. 2 points for Isaac Smith, so significantly Isaac does get a couple of points, and Callum Newsham will get the final point. So only 2 of the 7 title contenders scoring points, and there you can see that as it stands, it's 321 points for Chris Smiley, 317 for Isaac Smith. The gap goes out from 0 to 4 points, but that's next to nothing. There are over 80 points still up for grabs. If you score 40 for a race win, then 35 and 30, second and third, and then down in slightly smaller increments from there, plus a bonus point for the fastest laps. We still have 82 points left. 4 points suddenly doesn't seem like that much of a cushion, does it? But Chris Smiley will be happy to have that cushion, as slender as it is, and the Irishman brings his Restart Racing Honda Civic down into the Parc Ferme area, along with everybody else, everybody apart from Alex Lee and Jack Constable, whose sessions both ended at Rich's corner, but for very, very different reasons. So, Chris Smiley, fastest. Alex Lee, second. Brad Hutchison, number 17, is third. Number 5, Bradley Kent in fourth. Number 1, 2, 3, Isaac Smith in fifth. We're seeing on the screen now the confirmation of that result, with Callum Newton, number 16, in sixth. Bruce Winfield, number 37, was seventh. Eighth for the double reigning champion, number 1, Lewis Kent. Ninth for number 117, Adam Shepherd, but that is like a pole position for Area Motorsport, given the work they did just to get that car out there. Number 78, Jonathan Beeson, then rounding out the top 10 on his debut in TCR UK, and he's another driver who will not score championship points, something to bear in mind for a little bit later on. Andy Wilmot then, 11th position, number 210, within 2 seconds of pole position. Then 12th fastest, number 31, Matthew Wilson. 13th after an off at Riches for number 27, Scott Sumpton. And 14th after an off at Riches for number 72, Russell Joyce. Darrell Wilson, 15th position, number 50. He was off at Coram in the early stages. 16th fastest, number 63, Mark Havers. 17th, number 28, George Jackson. And 18th and last, having not set a time, was number 257, Jack Constable, although he will start 1 position ahead of Alex Lee, I reckon, once Lee's grid position is, grid penalty is applied, I should say. So, a dramatic start to the day here in TCR UK land. Round number 14 of the championship, the penultimate race of the year, will kick off at 1:30-ish. Again, I reiterate that the timings here today are a little bit iffy today. That session, for example, was supposed to finish 25 minutes ago, so we are running a little bit behind time, but they'll do everything they can to get us back on track a little bit later on in the day. We've got a lunch break that we can hopefully use up a little bit of time of, and yeah, we should be able to buy back a little bit of time later on through the day. In the meantime, though, let's head down to Paul O'Neill, who can catch up with our pole position man.
Wowzers, TCR UK pole position man. Wow, Chris Smiley. That was quite nice, wasn't it? Snetterton 200, cracking circuit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good track. Yeah, you know the bit inside, you know, adds quite a lot on the lap. It's a mile longer, but I think for touring car racing, I think actually the 200 is probably better for the racing and the fans. But yeah, it was a good lap. You know, it was all in control.
Get barbecue out.
We had such a good test yesterday with wet in the morning. We done a qualifying sim in the wet yesterday. We had the wet run, or sorry, we had the dry run yesterday with the qualifying sim with the dry. So yeah, yesterday was a really productive day. You know, and we've just, whenever you turn up with your car and it's on the money, it's a little turn here and a little turn there. You're not looking for big things, and fortunately that's where we're at today. So yeah, really looking forward to the first race. It's get my head down and be careful and try and win the thing.
Nice few points in the bag, mate, for the pole.
Yeah, listen, we're not even thinking about the points at the minute. You know, it's what we want to do. Pole position is what we wanted. You know, it's yeah, every point's useful, as I say.
Was you happy? I know it's not nice to have a red flag, but was you happy not to have to go back out because they were getting a little bit quicker, weren't they?
Well, to be honest, with another new set on the front there, we were just sitting there and we were going to go out and cover ourselves. You know, I was literally just about to go out the pit lane there whenever the red flag came out, and then we went back into the box, and then I was thinking that possibly that they might add 5 minutes onto the time. So yeah, listen, we were prepared either way. You know, it's we didn't want to put any extra mileage on the car. You know, we got our lap in at the start, and yeah, we made it count.
Yeah, tyre-wise, I'm sure I've seen some people coming in just putting on like one left front.
Yeah, not so sure about that one. Not so sure. Not so sure about that one. But yeah, you're a brave guy to go out there with a new left front on.
I was thinking that myself. Maybe we got that wrong, but it's tyres are good, aren't they? And the wet tyre from Goodyear is a proper tyre.
Yeah, it's one of those wet tyres that really rewards you at the start of the start of your run. If you really get your car hooked up and you have the pressure in the right window, you can really attack on the first lap. You know, and it's the first lap, second lap are all good. Then the next lap's thereabouts. So yeah, it's a really good wet tyre. You know, to be fair, the slick's very good as well for the Goodyear. But yeah, part 1 out of 3 done.
Last one. Quite happy with getting away from here and representing the UK in the TCR games.
Yeah, what an honour. You know, it was very, very nice for TCR UK and Motorsport UK to put me up for the thing. It's for our team didn't exist 6 months ago. You know, we rocked up to Oulton Park 2 days before the start of the new season with a car that we hadn't even seen before, and to be leading the championship now and to be asked to go to France next weekend and represent GB, it's just real honour. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Get yourself in the dry, fella. Good luck for later on. Well done. Chris Smiley is your pole man. Andy McEwen, back to you.
On the pole position then, and by a handsome margin. However, I think we'll have some slightly different track conditions when we're next out on circuit, because we've got some time attack sessions coming up, a Civic Cup race still to come. If it doesn't rain again, and my latest forecast is saying that it might not rain again, that rain that was supposed to come at lunchtime came a bit early, and so we might be done with the worst of the wet weather now. So if that's the case, the track could dry out quite nicely, and we could actually have, if not a completely dry circuit for race number 1, a drying circuit. And that is going to be a very, very interesting situation for the first race later on. So that race due to start at 1:30. We'll be here for all of the build-up before the race anyway, but just keep an eye to the timetable if you're here at the track, and if you're at home, then keep an eye to the social media pages. But around about 1:30, hopefully, we'll be getting our penultimate round of the TCR UK Championship underway. Back on the track, Neil's having absolutely none of it. Up Chris Smiley's Honda, and off goes the championship leader. Big, big drama for Smiley. Shepherd hanging on to the lead, but only just. The Audi loses one place, but tries to fight back as Constable's there as well. 3 wide, contact made. How they save that, I will never know.